you're looking for different ways to bring traffic to your business, right?
There's gonna be a lot of leakage if you don't have a...
If I would have known the Four Horsemen years ago and know what I know now, so the future self going back to the then self Brady and say, hey,
how could we make this easier to where we could still give you the keys to your own car, the keys to your own CRM so you can drive it and run it, but we can help you get it up and running and actually even provide everything from,
wow, this is a pretty store, or this is a pretty business.
If you don't have the container of a CRM.
We want to find the right tools to share with people so that they can grow their business.
If I'm going to put 10 grand into something, do I know I'm going to get 20, 50, 100 grand out? That's really all it comes down to.
Do not separate them at any cost, or it will potentially cost you your business.
To help you, who's watching, listening to this, to actually lower that hurdle and go like, oh.
Are you building your foundation on concrete or sand?
It is why we built a company around that. It's like, oh, I want to help more people get that, because if...
That was because I was dealing with like $1 million worth of sponsorships.
I feel like that's a lot of the same way that business owners will look at some of these other tools. If it's not in our...
Then it's like trying to open a business without a website.
Because that person, I guarantee you, is worth 10 times as much as...
The Four Horsemen of marketing is...
It takes 10 seconds at the end of the day to be like, oh...
You're never going to punch through and scale your business. You're just going to be...
Some input, some advice from a mentor who told me to...
I don't remember any of them talking about...
But I just need these 3 things to do in the CRM, and I need this 1 social media strategy. And if I did that...
This is the one that you need to always keep these horses on the track.
That's the goal. That's why you're listening. Welcome to the show.
We're glad you guys are here. All right, so today on my list of awesomeness of things that I've always wanted to talk about is the idea of the Four Horsemen. And I feel that if I would have known the Four Horsemen years ago and know what I know now, so the future self going back to the then self Brady and say, hey, here's the Four Horsemen. They always ride together. Do not separate them at any cost, or it will potentially cost you your business. Do you want to have a stable ground floor? What do you think, Gabe? Do you want a stable ground floor for your business?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
All right, I'm on board. Well, the Four Horsemen is the container. And I never really saw it like a container. I felt it was like a bathtub, the base of the bathtub, the sides, and then an open top. And I thought that's what my container was. And now I realize that for it to really stick, it needs a top to make it like an aquarium where
you
nothing
need a top on
gets
your tub.
I need a top tubber.
Top tubber. Yeah, what are the Four Horsemen? It sounds like some myth. It sounds like Greek mythology. Like these different characters, these deities. I don't know So what are the Four Horsemen?
So underneath the surface, let's start at the ground level, right? So if you have a bathtub or you have an aquarium, you have to set it on something, right? So the floor. Now, typically underneath the floor, there are braces and building materials and little microbes running around that we don't know that are there. Let's just call the under the surface is our restaurant, is our boutique store, is our business, our brand, our winery, distillery, whatever. That's a brick and mortar. So the brick and mortar is the base level, right? And everybody knows to have a business that attracts new people, you need to have a website. So let's call it concrete floor is the base of the business. Underneath the concrete floor, that's your brick and mortar. Now, if you want to have laminate floors, hardwood floors, painted floors, carpet, shag carpet, all that stuff, those are all the different websites that you can put on that floor, right? So you know that you need to have somebody be like, wow, this is a pretty store, or this is a pretty business. Hey, look at how sexy that floor is, right? Oh, it's Venetian, whatever.
Venetian shag.
Right? So that's the floor. And so you have your website, that's your bottom level. Now let's look at it from the container of a ladder. So you've got your website, social media, one stilt, one of your legs of the ladder. And on the other side, traffic, PR, some kind of paid ad, maybe. You're looking for different ways to bring traffic to your business, right? Could be going to events, festivals, but you've got these two stilts and your business is standing on stilts. So now I'm Brady Lowe and I have two stilts underneath my legs because I got social media and on some kind of like traffic that I'm trying out with PR teams or et cetera, et cetera. I got my social media manager on the social, and I got my website on the bottom that everything is dumping into. So now all of the energy from these sources is filling up the bathtub. But sadly, there's a leak in the bathtub. So I have to continually put money in month after month to fill that bathtub with water, only to know that I'm going to lose 30, 40, 60, 70%. But I'm not measuring that because I'm just trying to keep water in the tub. Now, if you call the Three Horsemen website, social media, and PR, typically in the way of like some kind of PR, traffic, ad spend, something, right? Marketing, like hands-on, in-person marketing. So now you've got these three horsemen. The fourth horseman, most important horseman, the horseman I wish that I would have been grabbed by the shirt collar and said, this is the one that you need to always keep these horses on the track, is CRM tool. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because like CRM tool was Salesforce to me when I learned about it, 15 years ago. And it changed my business. It basically took what I was doing from events with Cochin 5 and allowed me to organize all of my clients, sponsors, potential sponsors, and put them into a Kanban grid, which I was like, this is the coolest thing. And I could move them from just talking to me to closed deal. And it gave me a visual board to like track all these conversations. But that was because I was dealing with like $1 million worth of sponsorships.
What were you doing before? So like before you used a CRM tool, how were you managing your business, your pipeline, how are you even managing things?
It was a spreadsheet on Google Drive or Excel. And if I lost my computer and it was on Excel, I lost my entire database. So Google Drive coming out was great. Dropbox was great because now your computer's lighter. But it was Excel and then invoicing on QuickBooks.
Yeah. And what did you think going in, like before you picked up your first CRM? Because I got to imagine, like, I'm a creative as well on the photo and video side. I know you're a creative in the kitchen. And typically what I tend to see, and I think this will resonate with most folks that are watching and listening, is like if I'm a creative person, I tend to not like spreadsheets. I tend to not like tech as much. So like what did you think about using a CRM like before you jumped into it? That maybe what like misconceptions, things that you thought.
It's expensive. I was like, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I'm going to spend $1,000 a month to manage $12,000, like $12,000 a year to manage $1 million. I was like, I can't do that. That doesn't make sense to me when I can just do it in a spreadsheet. But I lost it. You know what I mean? Like that was once I got through that mindset, then I was like, oh my gosh, now I can put my teams in here. Now everyone's like using the same tool. When someone meets someone on the street that wants to be a partner to our business, we have a home for them. It's visible to like other people. We can communicate. Like I didn't know all that kind of stuff. You had to like get into it to figure all that out. But I just thought it was like really expensive and not necessary.
Yeah, it's expensive. And I bet you because I've like you've cooked for us and like I've seen your knife set, like when you rolled up and showed me like the knives that you had when we did steak and lobster and the whole thing.
Because having unsharp knives sucks. It's the worst thing in the world if you don't have a sharp knife.
If you don't have a sharp knife. And if I were to tell you like, oh, like Brady, because I don't even know the price of all those knives and what that knife set is worth. I can only imagine. But if I were like, hey, Brady, like you could still cut things. There's like $150 Henkel set at Costco that you could get. You'd be like, bro, like what? Like I'm not going to use the $150 Henkel set, right? I feel like that's a lot of the same way that business owners will look at some of these other tools if it's not in our skill set. The same way that, maybe me and my wife who are not chefs would look at tools in the kitchen, be like, oh, like, is it real? Like, why would I spend that? But then I'll tell you, when my buddies in my wedding gave me a Shun chef's knife, and it was the first like nice knife that I had that was probably more than like $40. It was like, whatever, $200-300 knife, nothing crazy. But I was like, oh, like, this is such a different experience than using the freaking Kirkland Henkel. And I got to assume, so like, then once you got into the CRM, what
Then
was
it's like,
the experience?
it's like trying to like open a business without a website. You're
Yeah.
missing something, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I need a website, I need social media. And then everyone's like, I need PR. And you start to become successful. And then I was like, I can't go backwards to not having. So even when I wasn't using Salesforce actively for a couple of years, I'm still paying them because I knew how important it was to my business.
Yeah.
And, I think that's where I kind of go back to like this Four Horsemen concept, right? The Four Horsemen of marketing is, one, you got to have a website, you got to have a social media channel, and you got to have traffic. Those are your three horses. And then the CRM horse is the horse that keeps channels all the energy of the other horses. So imagine all that horsepower going into an engine. The CRM is your engine that you need to build upon and basically keep growing it year after year. So your information's not sitting in a third party paywall gateway,
That's the container part that you're talking about, where it's not leaking out. I get it, because I'll be honest, I was trying to follow with it, because we were talking about like concrete and foundations, then we're talking about like bathtubs and aquariums. But what you're saying is the website, social media traffic, that's all like generating the attention, the like potential clients and customers that can come into my restaurant, that can buy my product. But then if you don't have the container of a CRM, then all of that money is wasted. Well, I mean, maybe not fully wasted, because you're going to get some clients from it. You're going to get some reservations, and you're going to sell some product, but you're going to there's going to be a lot of leakage if you don't have a container of organizing that and monetizing that.
Monetizing your traffic, right? I think that's the tool, right? So the container is this. I use that ladder example because if you have a ladder and you have the first two legs of the rung, and those first two legs are standing on the ground, which is your website, and your feet are connected to the top of those rungs, like those are your stilts. Like me standing on two stilts, one leg being my website, one leg being my social media, the other leg being my PR traffic gatherer. That's a really unstable experience. Yeah, I'm going to stand on stilts, but only for so long until I topple over. It's the fourth tap. It's when you top, you remove yourself and you make another floor on top of those ladders. So now you've got the ground that's supporting you. You've got two ladder legs, and then you've got the CRM tool on the top. So you basically have built yourself a strong foundation for going to the next step up the ladder, which would considerably be, if you master the Four Horsemen, then you can jump into like ads and doing ad spend, because all the money you spend on your ad spend, you know what's happening, what's working in the container below. Now, when you go to the ad spend, you only focus on the same kind of types of avatars and clients that you want. And then you build that box, you master that. And then the next rung of the ladder above that is SEO. That's long-term play. So you're going from short to middle to long-term play, climbing up that ladder. And if you master SEO, your business is going to potentially be a legacy, because you are starting to really fine-tune all the values that you have learned or built upon, right? And I'll be honest, I'm not in the SEO game. I'm not mastering that spot. I'm mastering CRM and website and social. Like, that's what I believe. And I don't know. So the whole thing is wrapped up into this concept of, what is your building built on? Are you building your foundation on concrete or sand? And if you're ever going to punch through the ceiling, you're going to want to have a concrete floor, because you're never going to be able to punch through the ceiling with a sand floor.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think when you get the Four Horsemen working in tandem, and now you can measure and see the input equals output and then more output. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, if you're going to invest $10,000 into something, you want to make sure that your input is smaller than your output. So I want to get 15,000 out of that. That makes me happy. If it's a break even and I'm getting new customers, great. If I'm making $5,000 out of 10, great. If I'm doubling my money, making 20 off of 10, better.
Yeah.
Then you take that money and you redeposit that into ads and then SEO. So you just take a percentage of those dollars and carry up the ladder once you master each step. So if you're doing this all on sand, you're never going to punch through and scale your business. You're just going to be a leaky, confused foundation. You know what I mean? So, so that's the whole idea of this, of the Four Horsemen, is how do we consider that it's really important that you have all like, how do businesses know that it's
website, social media, traffic, CRM?
Yep, Four Horsemen.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why. My company. You've got Taste Network. You got the agency, and I know you're working with some of the biggest brands out there. You've obviously seen how those four things work together in your business and for your clients. You know, whether they're a big wine brand or an events business or some of the the culinary tours that you've run. And then for us, it's why we literally built our business around, especially on the CRM side. We've got a sister company that does the website thing, and then the CRM thing is so important. But I'll tell you like what I've seen, because I've worked with companies doing 10, 20 grand a month to those that are doing 9 figures a month, couple $1 billion a year. And it never ceases to amaze me. There's probably have worked with 300-400 clients at this point now in those different ranges. I could count on both hands the number of companies that actually had it dialed in, which on one hand is kind of like crazy and scary. You look at it and you think like, wow, like the market, like all my competition, they have stuff so dialed in. But we had a client who's $2.5 billion a year company that could not get specific data out of their system. Like they didn't know important numbers that they needed to know. Like if a lead came in initially from an event, for example, or from an ad, when did that person actually buy? How much did they buy? How much were they worth to the company over the long haul, which would then inform them what they could spend on their bigger marketing and advertising budget. Like they couldn't get those numbers. But the handful that I've worked with that do have those things dialed, those are the ones that can operate with like way better margins, smaller teams, less anxiety. It's like, oh, I know exactly what I like, the dials that I need to mess with in my business. It is why we built a company around that. It's like, oh, I want to help more people get that, because if the biggest guys aren't doing it, I want to help you compete.
Let's break it into like a hardcore example. Let me just kind of spit this back to you.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got a restaurant, and that restaurant is doing a bunch of like cool offers each month. We give away a dinner for 2 for somebody's birthday. So we get them on Instagram. And then we have this bourbon club, and then we do some live person events, right? And every once in a while we have a tracking mechanism that gets them into our CRM tool. Mm-hmm. But over the course of a year, I go back and I'm like, let's pull all the people that came through Bourbon Club. And I go, what's unique about Bourbon Club people? Well, we had 88 people who signed up for Bourbon Club. It created this much revenue, but these people on average are eating here 7 times a month. Versus the birthday crowd who came in through the birthday promo are only doing, they may be eating with us once a quarter.
Yep.
So they're coming for a free meal. So
or even like that, you take that same restaurant, you know, if you were just to look and log every day who's ordering off the omakase style, going to be a very different clientele or customer. Like when Brady walks in and orders the whole menu or orders omakase, like don't you think it would be valuable and it takes 10 seconds at the end of the day to be like, oh, let's tag this customer as someone who's kind of a VIP. They're an omakase customer. Like that's because that person, I guarantee you, is worth 10 times as much as the people just coming in for a birthday and anniversary, the one-off date night, whatever, right? Or traveling through town. Not every customer is created equal. And I think that's what you're kind of bringing to the surface.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, but you have measurement tools, and that's what CRM does, right? Your website's going to push someone into a bucket. Some traffic's going to push them to a bucket. Your social media is going to push them into a bucket. Now we're going to pull a fish out of the bucket, throw in a hook, and throw it in the water, and hopefully they come in and have dinner with us. What CRM does is say, we're looking at all the fish who took on the bourbon concept, and over the calendar year, this group is performing as dream clients for us. And what we thought was a great promotion for birthday people is not that great of a client. So let's run ads against Bourbon Club 100%. And get as many people in a Bourbon Club because we can handle that scale, and let's kill what's not working with the birthday thing. And let's really focus on birthday or on Bourbon Club. Now we have Bourbon Club and we see an exponential jump because we took something that finally worked. We can measure it, we can pull the tag, and we can say, did these people perform for us? And it was a direct hit. So it gives people a lot more energy and information. I'm sorry, a lot more information of where to dump their energy into. And when I say energy, I'm talking either time or money, right? And I think that's what I started to realize when I said, hey, it's time for me to go back and find sponsors, and I need wine. All I did was type the word wine, and all of my contacts in wine show up, and I say, send them all this message. Special event, here's a fee, do you want it? And it was basically like anybody who clicked on that through the CRM tool, I knew that they were interested, even if they didn't respond to me. And then I'd be like, hey, I saw you click on my email. And we would follow up with them. Now, that is engagement, right? So inside this bathtub or this hard container, you have to have engagement. And if you can run 100 ads, and say you like prematurely step to the next rung of the ladder, you start running ads, and they all get stuck in this bathtub or this aquarium with all the other fish, and you don't feed them, and you don't engage with them, and you don't do micro interactions to make them feel good, what's going to happen? They are going to find a way out the tank, you know? So it's just trying to understand like that when we talk about Four Horsemen, everyone's on like, we need 3 horsemen and I can survive, but not really. It's look at how many websites you've created or we've created. Look how many social media managers. I don't remember any of them talking about what CRM tool are we working with? What offers are we going to have? How are we going to be able to drill down your traffic each month into like real people that are coming in and eating, and I can show you how much what you spent on me equals this much return. They never got in those conversations. So what happened? Like, why did we lose sight of every service provider from social media, PR, and website people that have taken our money over the last decade? How come barely any of them? So kudos to the ones who are out there who've done it, but the ones who have not, they just take our money and run. They want the job and they won't come. Like, it doesn't matter if they get the job again. CRM tool is the one. If that guy's like, hey, I'll do your website, but you need a CRM tool, I'm a little bit more expensive. 5 years later, I bet those guys are still working together because he cared about the revenue of that business.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to like get across to like friends and family is that we have these things that we rely on, but we're not seeing that we're wasting money on them because we just don't know who the fourth horseman is. And we weren't taught this. I didn't learn it. I learned by like a need, you know, like I definitely needed it because I was swimming in too much information and I needed to organize it, streamline it, get access to it, reach out to it, follow up with it, sell it, close it, blah, blah, blah again, and then do it again the next year. And I didn't have time to go talk to a newsletter manager and be like, where's my contacts? Can you send out a dinner invite to these people? Like, no, I'm sorry. Like, we're dealing with high ticket offers, not, you know, and I think So I think the Four Horsemen is the buzzword, and how to build your business on a concrete foundation. Put a fancy floor on it, get the fancy ass hot tub, put the cover on it, and let your Four Horsemen bathe in the fruit of the Lords.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's a solid framework. I sit on kind of the opposite experience from what you had, where you discovered it from need, not because anyone taught you or told you. For me, it's always been there and been part of the process. I think because when I first jumped into entrepreneurship, I got some input, some advice from a mentor who told me to build a systems-based business. He said, Gabriel, your job is to build the system will build the business. That naturally took me to, with our photography business, finding a CRM. And fortunately, at the time, there was a specific CRM for event and wedding portrait photographers. So I jumped in early on that platform. There were other tools like a Salesforce or this was before HubSpot, but Salesforce was there. There were other tools. There were spreadsheets that you could use. But I was like, no, I know this is important. So I just knew early, or maybe I got lucky enough to kind of stumble into that because of the advice of a mentor. So now 19 years later, I'm I just kind of assume, I go into some of these businesses, especially some of these bigger businesses I work with, just assuming they're going to have it figured out. And I'm always surprised when they don't. I'm oh, they don't. Yeah, because nobody talks about it or tells you or how to do it. And I think, honestly, when I think of, okay, well, why, you asked the question, why don't people go all in on this? I think it is, it's they're trepidatious because of of price. Hey, this seems really expensive for a tool. And then there's the implementation and how do I actually get the value out of that thing? And it can be scary and feel technical and overwhelming, especially with tools like Salesforce or HubSpot or any other kind of all-in-one tool. If you're forced to figure it out on your own, because then what are your options? Your options are, okay, I'm going to pay a bunch of money. I'm going to pay 10, 12, 15 grand a year for the tool. Then I'm going to have to go hire an agency, a specialist, one of their certified partners to help build the system out for me. And that's going to be another 30, 40 grand without any promise that it's going to do anything for me. So I think there's this big hurdle to overcome, which is what we put together with the accelerator and everything, where it's hey, can we make this, how could we make this easier to where we could still give you the keys to your own car, the keys to your own CRM so you can drive it and run it, but we can help you get it up and running and actually even provide everything from the tech itself to the strategy to the implementation with you still sitting in the driver's seat and being able to run it.
I wish I would have had that years ago, but you also have to find the right people to do that. And, I think that's a big play. But I'm 100% with you. I think what I like about what we're doing here with Ghosted Guest is that we want to find the right tools to share with people so that they can grow their business and give them the keys to what has made other businesses successful, not just us, but others, and give it to them in a way that's short talk and layman terms and, what's going on? What do I need to do? Well, you got to put a knife, a really sharp knife, in the hand of someone who knows how to cut onions. And they don't walk away every 4 minutes crying. They know how to cut onions. They can get you ready for service. Now you're a prep cook. Now you're a sous chef. Now you're an executive chef. Now you can do all the things that need to be done in the kitchen. So I think people are afraid of making investments if they don't know what it takes to run that investment, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe as an example of, I don't buy a motorcycle because I don't know how to work on them. I bought an electric lawnmower because I don't like dealing with the gas stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're just starting to receive how people are doing things.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on there. having the know-how, I think it really comes down to confidence, I guess, with an investment. Hey, like I've got some sense of certainty and confidence that I'm going to make this investment. I mean, really just comes down to, if I'm going to put 10 grand into something, do I know I'm going to get 20, 50, 100 grand out? That's really all it comes down to. And the more of a question mark that is, which typically with things like tech or PR or advertising, when it's like not my world, it can be a lot scarier. And so that's the idea, like with this show and the work that we're doing and what we have with Accelerator and those things, is to help you, who's watching, listening to this, to actually lower that hurdle and go like, oh, there might be a million gadgets that I could toggle in this CRM thing, or 100 different strategies I could run with social media, but I just need these like 3 things to do in the CRM, and I need this like one social media strategy. And if I did that, I'd make more money and be less stressed out. That's the goal. That's why you're listening.
Yep. Well, then, and I've learned this, and it's what do I say to the team that I already have? Like, how do I get them on board with this system? Right now, I'll put the hard facts out because I get a little excited about this. People are lazy. People are extremely lazy when it comes to engagement. And I have hired dozens and dozens and dozens. At one point in my career, I'm running 25 PR teams around the country in a 16-month period, doing 20,000 guests a year in 20 different markets, right? Like, that's crazy for PR teams, all with different playbooks, all with different audiences. And even when I get as lucky to run 1 or 2 teams, I ask them, can you do engagement? And we're right back to the same old shit where it's like hearts and boof poofs. And it's just like, this does not give anything to my person. It's basically like, it's just a dismissive like throw. Like, let's put up a pretty picture and not feed them. People want connection. And with that,
they do.
I say, people just want to be happy. They want to be seen.
They do. And I think that's where like we as the owners need to take back ownership of our own engagement. Can't outsource engagement. We can't give engagement to AI. We can outsource certain things to agencies and, contractors and freelancers. We can use AI, we can use tools, but that engagement, that connection piece is something we got to take ownership of.
100%. Wrap her up. Put her up.
Wrap her up, Buttercup.
Put her up. Put her up, Buttercup.
All right, we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, see you on the next one. That's your ghosted guest.